Are you counting down the days till the end of the school year? I know I am. We have exactly 34 more days until that blessed last grading day, and then freedom. Although I signed up for summer school, so partial freedom. But between the end of the school year and where we are right now, a lot of us have finished state testing. So what do we do with the remaining time? Do we continue in academics? Do we just play games and watch movies? What do we do with the remaining time in our school year when state testing is done? In today's episode, I'm going to be going over 3 different categories of things you can do in your classroom to help you finish out the school year. So, let's get started. Welcome to Solving for the Undefined podcast. I'm your host, Johanna, founder of Miss Kuiper's Classroom, the place that equips teachers in creating a healthy math classroom where students can thrive, no matter their academic abilities. But it's not always about the numbers, and that's why I'm here, bringing you the formulas to solve your problems, math and otherwise, plus strategies on cultivating that necessary math mindset. And that's what you can count on. Hello, welcome to a brand new episode. I think one of the hardest things to do as a teacher is engage our students. All of our students are so different, so figuring out how to engage them always seems like such a big task. And not only that, but as we near the end of the school year, students start to get into that summer mode. Teachers, we do that too. So how do we, if we are done with state testing, how do we fill that time between the end of state testing and the end of the school year? For me, my last day of school is June 17th. And from today, in 1 week, we will start our state testing for math, which gives me about 1 month after state testing till the last day of school. Now, I have, for the most part, covered the majority of the topics I needed to in order to give students the best chance for our state testing. So now that I've covered the majority of the topics I needed to cover for my 8th graders, what do I do now? I have 1 month of school left. I need to engage my students, otherwise chaos will ensue. What do I do? So in today's episode, I'm going to give you 3 styles of things that you can do. Academic, non-academic, and semi-academic. I know that's very, very specific, but I promise I will get more into specifics as we go through. So first thing we're going to talk about is 2 ways to keep it academic in your classroom if you are done with state testing and just riding it out to the end of the school year. When students need to get that boost of engagement, I find competitions and movement are the number 1 ways to go. So the way I do the competition style is a thing called math lottery. So the way this works is I give students a set of problems, whether it's task cards, worksheet, an online activity. It really doesn't matter what they're doing. They have a set of problems. When they complete one of the problems, they'll come run it by me. I'll check it out. We'll have a conversation about it. If I give them the green light on a 100 start or 200 start, depending how many kids you have, they will pick a number and initial it. This is now their number. They have picked the number for the lottery. And then this just continues to cycle as students complete problems. They'll initial them. And at the end of the time, or when all the spots are taken, you pick 2 to 3 numbers using a random number generator. Whoever initials are on those spots are the winners of the math lottery for that day. Now, my favorite thing to do with this is if I pull a number that doesn't have an initials on it, that's it. There is not a winner for that number. So if I picked 3 numbers and one of them doesn't have initials on it, then I only have 2 winners. That's how the lottery works. So I give students a taste of the real world, if you will. But that is how you play math lottery. Super easy, super fun. And the reason why I love this so much is not only do you get student engagement by, there's a chance I could win something. And I usually do Jolly Ranchers or classroom currency. But it's also easy to apply this to any activity you do in the classroom. So if you're doing a worksheet, easy, slap on math lottery. If you're doing task cards, Easy, slap on math lottery. So, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, if you will. So, that was our competition style activity for our academic work. The movement-based activity is a scavenger hunt. Now, a couple episodes back, it actually is probably a year ago from now, but I did an episode with Kelly Hogan, Mathematically Enthused on Instagram, and we talked about scavenger hunts in depth there. So if what I'm explaining is not in depth enough for you, definitely go back and give that a listen because you will get more information there. But basically what a scavenger hunt is students walking around a classroom answering different problems. This is the movement piece. So you are going to print out pieces of paper, and on the bottom you are going to put a problem. And then on another piece of paper, you're going to put that answer on the top of another problem. So on each paper, you'll have the answer to the previous problem and a new problem. And then you hang these around your room. So when students answer a problem, they're then going to check around the room to find that answer. If they find it, then that is the next problem they work on. But if they don't find it, it's a little bit of self-checking. They know that their answer is incorrect because they can't find it. This is a great activity to do if you are reviewing. So like an end of the year review, you can have a bunch of different topics on it, or you can just stick to one concept and use the full set of problems for your scavenger hunt. You can find a lot of scavenger hunts on Teachers Pay Teachers. I have a few as well. So if you do not want to create something yourself, definitely check out Teachers Pay Teachers for scavenger hunts that are pre-made. And with scavenger hunts, one of the things I suggest is have a tracking sheet. So if you have 12 problems, print out a piece of paper or have students fold papers into 12s. That way they have a space to work on each problem. So those are my 2 recommendations for academic things that you can use in your classroom to keep engaging your students until the end of the school year. Now moving into the non-academic things. So maybe you use this at the end, like the week before the end of the school year, just to give that extra boost of engagement, or whenever you really would like. So the first thing that is non-academic is the game Skunk. Now I think I've mentioned this before in last year's end of the year podcast, but Skunk is a really fun, easy game that just needs 2 dice. So each of your students is going to take a piece of paper and make 5 columns on there. And in each column, they're going to put a letter, S-K-U-N-K, skunk. And then all your students are going to stand up. Under a document camera or something, you're going to roll those 2 dice. All the students who are standing are going to take those points and write it in the S column. Now, after the first one, which is mandatory for them to stand, they get to choose to sit down for that second roll if they would like. So those who sit down, whatever points they got first is the final amount they get for the first round. The ones who continue standing, you're going to roll again. And then whatever it is, they'll put it down. However, if one of the dice rolled is a 1, they lose all the points in that column. And then the S round would be over. And then you move on to K. But if 2 1s are rolled, or snake eyes, students lose, those who are standing, lose all the points they've earned in the game. So as you move through rounds, S-K-U-N-K, it gets more and more dangerous to stay standing. But those who stand could earn more points than those who just sit down after the first round. It's a lot of fun. Kids get all riled up about it. It's awesome. The second non-academic thing that you can do in your classroom is this brain break. I don't know the name for it, but I call it the hundreds game. So the way it works is all of your students stand in a circle around your room facing each other. And then their goal is to say the numbers 1 through 100. They can't choose ahead of time. They can't plan it without saying the number at the same time. So I usually, as the teacher, say 1 to kind of start the round. And then someone has to say 2. And then 3. Then 4. And so on. But if 2 people say it at the same time, we have to start back over at 1. And so at first it's a lot of like 1. And then 2 people say 2. And then I had to say 1 again. And it just kind of goes like this for a while until they figure out, oh, I'm going to have to wait a little bit, see if someone else is going to say something first. It's a lot of fun. I think in one of my classes, my 5th period class has gotten up to the number 24. I know it's not super successful, but I do have 25 students in that class, so I guess it kind of works out pretty well. But my kids love it. They get super competitive about it, and I have them compete between classes to see which class can get to the highest number. So we're kind of stuck at 24 for right now, but I'm sure as the school year progresses, they will get better at it. So those are my 2 non-academic things for you. Now, moving into our semi-academic. And the reason I call them semi-academic is because the 2 ideas I have for you definitely still relate to math, but they aren't standard-based. Hence the name semi-academic. So the first thing is a budget project. Now, in my classroom, I do a classroom economy where students earn money, they have a job to earn income, they pay rent on their desk, they pay utilities like internet, and I will explain more about my classroom economy in depth in a later episode. But with this idea, students have been saving up a certain amount of money to do this budgeting project. Whatever money they have saved up, they have to go on a week-long vacation. Whether that vacation stays in-state, in-city, or out-of-state, or even out of country, they are going to take that money and budget it out for whatever vacation they want to do. So, if I had enough to maybe go to Disneyland, for my Disneyland vacation, I would probably have to figure out how much is it going to take to either fly or drive down there. How much are tickets going to cost? What's a hotel going to cost? What's transportation like when I get there? What about food? What about souvenirs, etc.? So, whatever students have saved up is what they are then going to use for the budgeting project. Now, I know not every teacher has a classroom economy where they've been saving up their money to then do this budgeting project. So, you can always start out with a set amount. I know my first year of teaching, before I did a classroom economy, I just gave them a set $2,000. Not like real cash, but like fake currency to then use to spend on their week-long vacation. And some of them got really creative. I joked with some of them who all chose Disneyland that I was going to steal their ideas for my honeymoon because I was getting married that summer and we were going to go to Disneyland. I didn't. But some of them tried a little bit harder just because they thought I was going to steal their vacation plans and they wanted to make sure I had fun on my honeymoon. For this budgeting project, I make my students be super specific. Now, if they are flying down, how are they getting from the airport to their hotel? Are they going to stop for food on the way? How much is that food going to cost? So I make them look up specific hotel rates, restaurants in the area that they might want to eat at, and look at their menus and make sure you tip your servers. So this is a very in-depth analysis for them in budgeting. Another thing I do, a little bonus content for you, at the end of this school year, this is the first time I'm doing this, I'm going to make my students do taxes on whatever they've earned this school year. I know normally you do taxes for the previous year and it's due in April, but because my students haven't been earning income that long, I just do it at the end of the school year. And I'm super excited because I found out that TurboTax has an education portal where students can, quote unquote, pretend to do their taxes, like putting their income in and figuring out how much they're either getting back or how much they owe. Super excited to do this. I will definitely update you as the end of the school year comes and we do this activity. My goal with this budgeting project or this taxing thing is I want students to get a taste of what it's like to have some financial literacy or financial awareness, because it's not always something that's given to students, especially at the middle school level. But some of those kids need that real world connection of how is this math going to make a difference in my life? So this is how I do it for them. So this next semi-academic thing that I do for my students, I've done every single year. I have watched this movie, how many times is that? If I had 5 classes or 6 classes, It's definitely up there. It is definitely a high number of how many times I've seen this movie. But my favorite thing to do the last week or the last couple of days before the end of the school year is watch Hidden Figures. I absolutely love this movie. And despite having watched it upwards of, 30, 35 times, I still look forward to watching this movie every single school year. And I think one of the reasons why I love this movie so much is not just because it showcases Black female mathematicians, but it's just such an inspiring movie about how math literally changed the way they were able to send people into space. It is probably one of the biggest achievements for NASA in all of space history, and math was the key component within it. And I know students right now are not doing that level of math, but just to see that they were able to calculate the flight trajectories using math, it just blows my mind. And two, this is not a boring mathy film. There's a lot of funny comedy stuff. There's a little bit of drama. So kids get this full rounded movie of emotions, as well as seeing a representation of themselves, because there are Black female mathematicians in this movie who are changing the way NASA does things. Please, 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 if you have not seen this movie, you need to watch it. It's on Disney Plus, so if you have that, you definitely need to watch this. And it's a PG movie, so it's perfect for students. You don't necessarily need to get parental consent because it is just a PG movie. Now, obviously, if you feel more comfortable getting parental consent or grown-up consent, definitely go for it. But I think overall, it is a fantastic movie, and kids learn so much from it. They really enjoy it. So overall, in today's episode, I talked to you about some academic things you could do, like math lottery and scavenger hunts, non-academic things you could do, like skunk or the hundreds game, or some semi-academic things like a budget activity or hidden figures. So as we end today's episode, I just wanted to let you know I have linked the budget activity as well as some of the scavenger hunts I use in my classroom, along with some of the other things I mentioned today in the description and on the show notes on my website. You can find it in many places. With that, thank you so much for being here today, and I'll calc you later. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. To find all the links and resources to things talked about in this episode, head on over to MissKuipersClassroom.com and click on podcast.